Jackie.
Thank you, Caroline. There's been a lot of discussion about the Epstein files and the president's comments yesterday calling it a hoax. Can you clarify which part of the Epstein hoax is the hoax part?
The president is referring to the fact that Democrats have now seized on this as if they ever wanted transparency when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, which is an asinine suggestion for any Democrat to make. The Democrats had control of this building, the White House, for 4 years, and they didn't do a dang thing when it came to transparency in regards to Jeffrey Epstein and his heinous crimes. It was this president who directed the Department of Justice and the Attorney General to do an exhaustive review of all files related to Jeffrey Epstein, which they did. The Attorney General and the FBI, led by Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, Kash Patel, these are great patriots, some of the most trusted voices in the Republican Party movement. It's part of the reason the president appointed them to these high law enforcement positions, and they spent many months going through all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein, and they concluded what they found in that memo, which they drafted and they released. And so the president has been transparent. He has followed through on his promises to the American people, but he doesn't like to see Democrats and the mainstream media covering this like it's the biggest story that the American people care about. The president has been working so hard this week. On Tuesday, he went to Pennsylvania, where he secured $90 billion in investments for the Commonwealth, for the people of that state. After that, he came back to the Oval Office at 8 p.m. He went in there to whip votes to get the Genius Act signed into law. And because of his efforts, that bill is now going to be signed and passed. The following day, yesterday, he meets with a foreign leader, the King of Bahrain, to secure more investments into this country. And then yesterday afternoon, the president is in the East Room of the White House mourning with parents who have lost their children because of fentanyl, signing a bipartisan piece of legislation. And not a single cable network in this country took that event live and covered that event like they should. Those are the issues the president cares about. What could be more important to the American people than helping families who have lost their children? Those are the issues this president is going to remain focused on.
I understand he wants to move on from the story, but you do have some prominent figures, including the Senate Majority Leader, the House Speaker, voicing support for the files to come out. Representative Massey collecting signatures that would force a discharge petition for a vote on the floor for this. It doesn't seem to be going away. What is stopping the administration from just redacting any sensitive information, grand jury information, and putting out what is appropriate so that the American people can decide and then let this story die?
Well, in terms of redactions or grand jury seals, those are questions for the Department of Justice. Those are also questions for the judges who have that information under a seal. And that would have to be requested and a judge would have to approve it. That's out of the president's control. He has said, in agreement with some of the leaders on Capitol Hill, that if the Attorney General and the Department of Justice come across any other credible evidence, they should provide that to the American people. The president has said that, and he agrees with them on that.
Karoline Leavitt, the rising conservative political figure and Trump White House staffer, has made headlines not just for her policies, but for her powerful, no-nonsense responses to the media. In a recent press interaction, a reporter learned firsthand what happens when you ask Karoline Leavitt the wrong question, one that carried assumptions, political bias, or an attempt to corner her into a narrative. What followed was a viral moment that highlighted her bold communication style and reinforced her growing influence in Republican circles. During a press briefing, the reporter asked a pointed question, seemingly designed to challenge Leavitt's alignment with former President Donald Trump's rhetoric and political strategies. The question framed Trump's influence as divisive and implied that Leavitt's support of him might alienate broader voters. Rather than deflecting or responding defensively, Karoline leaned in, not just literally, but rhetorically. She dismantled the question piece by piece, pointing out the media's role in mischaracterizing conservative values. She argued that support for Trump was not about division, but about policies that put American interests first, from strong border control to economic growth and parental rights. She shifted the focus from political theater to real-world issues that affect everyday Americans. Her tone was controlled, confident, and assertive, commanding the room with both facts and conviction. This moment wasn't just about a single press exchange. It reflected a larger trend in U.S. politics, where Republican leaders like Karoline Leavitt are rejecting the traditional media narrative and speaking directly to the public, often using viral clips and social media platforms. Her interaction reminded audiences that politicians no longer need to play by the media's rules. They can set their own tone and terms. Leavitt's background as the former assistant press secretary in the Trump White House has clearly sharpened her media instincts. She's quick to recognize loaded questions and skilled in redirecting them toward conservative talking points with clarity. To her supporters, these viral confrontations show strength, authenticity, and a willingness to fight for what she believes in. To her critics, they may come across as combative, but even that fuels more headlines and attention. In today's polarized political landscape, moments like these go beyond just a QA. They shape public perception. They become powerful tools for fundraising, rallying the base, and spreading a campaign message. For Leavitt, every media challenge is an opportunity to showcase her bold leadership style, one that echoes Trump's own combative media strategy, but with a fresh, next-generation twist. In short, when you ask Karoline Leavitt the wrong question, you're likely to get a direct, unapologetic answer, one that not only rebukes the premise, but turns the moment into political momentum. And in this digital era, those moments travel fast across Twitter, YouTube, and political blogs, shaping the narrative far beyond the press room.